What's up and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm going to be giving a review for the graphic novel Spider-Man Blue. Now this is the particular version that I have of this particular tale. Now one of the things that kind of drew me to wanting to read this particular book was the idea that it was written by Jeff Loeb and illustrated by Tim Sale. So that's what kind of drew my interest into wanting to check out, and I heard this is one of the greatest Spider-Man stories ever told. But as you can see, this is how mine looks right there. Now basically what this is, it's basically a retelling of the Spider-Man story for Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy, how he met Gwen Stacy and stuff like that. Well, that's what it's broadcasting itself to be about. That it's actually retelling that particular story, and I guess leading up to the events of what the Green Goblin did to her and all that kind of stuff like that. But I must admit it was a pretty good read. Now this particular story actually ran for 6 issues back in July of 2002 to April of 2003. That's when this story was originally created, but they have put it all together and made a graphic novel of those particular 6 issues. So like I was saying, I'm already a fan of Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale's work, because they have done a couple of Batman stories that I'm a big fan of, Batman The Long Halloween, Catwoman, When in Rome, and stuff like that. So that's why I decided to check out their take on Spider-Man, because they already did their take on Batman. So I was kind of curious about their take on Spider-Man. And I could say it was definitely a pretty good, solid read. Even the artistry, the art with the illustrations by Tim Sale was very good in this particular book. But one of the things I want to touch on, I know it's saying that it's really about the Gwen Stacy thing for Peter Parker, how he first met her and stuff like that. But for my opinion, it didn't really focus on her enough, and it's a lot of focus and attention given to Mary Jane, which I thought was pretty interesting. But you do have all the various different characters from the Spider-Man lore and Spider-Man storyline in here as well. Now what I'm also hearing is that they were actually adapting some of the storylines, some issues in Spider-Man which had occurred many years ago. I heard they was actually taking elements from certain issues Amazing Spider-Man 40 through 48, those issues, and even 63. But there are various different Spider-Man villains in this particular storyline too as well. But Spider-Man does, throughout the story, he has a tape recorder, and he's actually retelling the events of how he met Gwen and fell in love with Gwen, and how Mary Jane was always there too as well. So all that was kind of interesting. But I do feel it didn't really put enough attention on Gwen Stacy herself for some reason. It's it really wasn't the focus of her, and she was already with Harry. She was already dating Harry, so I whoa, Then Mary Jane was there too as well. You have Flash Thompson. I like the chemistry between the various different characters when they're together and stuff like that. And it does take place right after the Green Goblin, or you can say Norman Osborn got sick, and remember he had lost his memory. Because it adapts. Like I say, certain parts of this particular storyline right here, it kind of adapts. The night of the Gwen Stacy storyline, it does kind of take elements from this particular story, about Norman losing his memory. He forgot that he was a Green Goblin. He forgot that Peter Parker was Spider-Man, his son's best friend. See all that kind of stuff. And I always thought this was definitely a good read, right? The night Gwen Stacy died, or you could say the death of the Stacy. It's this particular storyline. I always thought this was definitely a good read. But it's it's still, I say, it don't really focus on Gwen I thought it would have. I thought it would even have I won't spoil it for people who haven't read it. I thought it would even have moments that were really tragic in the story, but they're not here in this particular storyline. But it was still a pretty entertaining read. It was still awesome, And I do know the Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale, I do know their working is very similar to some of the Batman stories I have read, the Batman The Long Halloween, Catwoman, When in Rome, and stuff like that. It's very similar to those particular stories, but instead of it being Batman, it's Spider-Man. But still, I would definitely recommend it. You could pick it up, because this is a new version of this, which just has been recently released, and it collects those particular tales. So it's not anything that's really canon. It's just a retelling of the relationship, how Peter started falling in love with Gwen Stacy, but he's really with Mary Jane and stuff like that. But like I said, it still doesn't really seem like it focuses on Gwen Stacy herself that much, But it's still an awesome read. But in Spider-Man Blue, like I said, I still enjoyed it. It It was pretty awesome. I liked it. I'm gonna give it a solid B, and I would definitely recommend it for fans of anything dealing with like Gwen Stacy or like Peter Parker. You know, that kind of relationship. I would still recommend it for them. You know, so I'm gonna give it a solid B. Please leave a comment and subscribe too as well.